Channel 4 News.
Gorbachev goes on Soviet television to talk about Chernobyl for the first time and calls for a meeting with President Reagan to discuss a ban on nuclear testing.
NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev called Chernobyl our misfortune when he went on television from Moscow tonight, his first public comments on this nuclear disaster. He raised the death toll by 1, expanded the number of those injured, and blamed the Western press for exaggerating the problem. But as NBC's Moscow bureau chief Steve Hirsch reports now, he also attempted to use the Chernobyl accident as an opening to wider talks on the use of nuclear power.
A highly unusual television address to the Soviet people, the first of its kind announced in advance, dealt at length with the Chernobyl accident. The Soviet leader said 9 people were now dead and that the number of those hospitalized with radiation sickness had increased by 1/3 to 299.
There is still energetic work to eliminate the consequences of the accident, to put out the fire and to stop it spreading to other generating units.
Gorbachev said a power surge apparently caused the accident, leading to a hydrogen explosion. Scientists say a surge might have stopped the cooling pumps, permitting the reactor core to heat up, causing a hydrogen bubble, which then exploded. The Kremlin leader offered condolences to the families of the victims and charged Washington and the Western news media with lying about the accident.
What did they speak of and write during those days? They talked about mass graves and that Kiev being a dead city. Of course, we came across the lack of conscience that characterizes these circles.
The major points of the Gorbachev speech: a continuation of the Soviet moratorium on nuclear testing until August 6th, the 41st anniversary of the U.S. bombing of Hiroshima. That would be nearly a year since Gorbachev first announced the unilateral test ban. A new invitation to President Reagan to meet anywhere in Europe or even Hiroshima to sign a nuclear test ban treaty. A call for a conference in Vienna to set up a better international system to warn the world in case of nuclear accidents. Gorbachev was addressing the world as much as the Soviet people. He seemed unhappy about his government's handling of the accident and worried about his image abroad, an image of a new openness he sought to cultivate in the 14 months since he took power in the Kremlin. Steve Hirsch, NBC News, Moscow.
At the White House tonight, there was a statement saying that the United States is comforted by Gorbachev's statement that the worst now is over, but his call for a test ban treaty and a test ban summit talk was rejected, as it has been in the past. And the White House accused Gorbachev of making unfounded charges, saying that there had been no effort by this country or its allies to make political capital out of Chernobyl. As for Gorbachev's criticism of the Western press, the White House said if there were mistakes in reporting, they were the result of the extreme secrecy by the Kremlin. One of the leading authorities in the United States on the Soviet Union is with me now to discuss what all of this may mean to U.S.-Soviet relations and the future of Gorbachev. He's William Hyland, editor of Foreign Affairs Quarterly, a former member of the National Security Council staff at the White House. Mr. Hyland, what about the chances for an overall summit meeting this summer between the president and Gorbachev? Affected at all by Chernobyl?
Probably not for this summer, but I think the chances of a summit meeting have improved. Gorbachev had been stalling, drawing back, making conditions. Now I think he's on the defensive, and a summit is probably more in his interest, and he wants one.
Will this affect his grip on power within the Soviet Union?
Not in a general sense, but I do think it weakens him. He has a credibility problem. He said new openness, new regime, less bureaucracy, and we now have an example of bureaucracy in action at its worst.
One of the things that he has been attempting to do is to drive a wedge between the United States and its Western allies. No one is angrier about all of this than Western Europe.
Western Europe and Japan. I think he's lost a lot of credibility in both places. He's lost credibility certainly in Eastern Europe and probably inside the Soviet Union.
Do you think that there's a chance that the United States and the Soviet Union can get together on this question of peaceful uses of nuclear power and the safety questions involved?
I think so. After all, this is basically an American proposal. This was something that Senators Sam Nunn and John Warner proposed some years ago and was taken over by the Reagan administration.
Mr. Hyland, thank you very much.
Thank you.
In Moscow today, it was disclosed that an American diplomat has been expelled from that country charged with spying. The American, Eric Seitz, left the Soviet Union on Saturday. A spokesman for the U.S. Embassy in Moscow said that he was a member of the military attaché staff there. At the White House today, there was no comment on those Soviet charges. Also coming up in this program tonight, a fight for life in Oregon, where doctors are trying to revive 3 mountain climbers while searchers look for 8 others. And Fred Francis with a special segment report tonight on a new Army training program, How to Survive as a Prisoner of War. It's a brutal education.
801.
You are about to witness a crime. 2 pickpockets moving through a crowd of vacationers.
There, that guy.
Which guy?
In the red shirt.
Yeah.
Waiting for just the right moment to strike. It could happen to you, so don't carry cash, carry American Express traveler's checks. Authorizing refunds 24 hours a day. Don't leave home without them.
Oh, a headache now. Anybody seen my extra strength bufferin?
Yeah, my shoulder hurt. And Kim took it. Sore leg.
It'll help that. Kim, got my bufferin?
Steve does. Got a backache moving scenery.
They all know how good my bufferin is.
Extra strength bufferin for Steve's backache, Kim's legs, John's shoulder, Debbie's headache. It goes to where you hurt fast with an extra strength dose of relief.
Curtain going up.
And I'm ready.
For headaches and a lot more, extra strength bufferin, also in regular strength from Bristol-Myers.
In Alamance County, North Carolina, Honda lawnmowers are assembled from the wheels up. Beginning with the Honda overhead valve engine, each precision part is fitted and assembled to exacting tolerances. Then, the final critical step that determines whether a machine will meet the Honda standard. The Clara Johnson test. If Clara pulls and it starts, it's a Honda.
Ship it.
The Honda lawnmower. It's easy to start, or else.
What started as a survival hike on snow-covered Mount Hood in Oregon has turned into a fight for life against the odds. 3 teenage climbers were brought down from the mountain today, half frozen. Doctors are working to revive 2 of them, but they say that their chances are slim. And as NBC's Don Oliver reports now, 8 other members of that hiking party still are missing.
The 13 hikers were within a few feet of the summit of Mount Hood when winds began to blow snow at 60 miles an hour. They couldn't see more than 2 feet. The hikers, 3 adults and 10 teenagers from a Portland church school, made it down from the 11,000-foot level to the 7,500-foot level. They dug into a snow cave on Monday to try to wait out the whiteout. Yesterday morning, 2 of them managed to climb and walk 16 miles through the snow to a lodge, and then the rescue effort began. The weather was still awful.
Yesterday, the climbing conditions were probably some of the worst I've ever been in. 60-mile-an-hour winds, and we could only see approximately 2 feet in front of us. And it was extremely dangerous for everybody to be out there.
Today, conditions were better. Helicopters searched the sides of the mountain. Rescue teams combed the snow-covered slopes. From the air, they spotted a red sleeping bag near an avalanche area. There, they found the bodies of 3 of the missing. 2 showed slight signs of life and were rushed to a Portland hospital. Their internal body temperature was said to be 43 degrees. They've been placed on heart-lung machines, but there is no prognosis for their survival. Back on the mountain, the searchers were able to find no sign of the snow cave or the 8 still missing. A glove was found near the ravine where the bodies were recovered. The search was concentrated there, while anxious friends and relatives waited below.
It's very hard. It's very difficult and hard indeed.
Experienced mountaineers said there was still hope the climbers could be found alive if they have been able to remain dug in, away from the wind. Don Oliver, NBC News.
Just across the state line in Washington today, scientists flew inside the crater of the Mount St. Helens volcano and confirmed that it is building toward a new eruption. The scientists say that a new dome of molten rock is growing inside the crater, and already it is larger than the dome that erupted 2 years ago, almost 1,000 feet across now. It was 6 years ago that a violent eruption blew 1,300 feet off the height of the mountain and killed 57 people. There's a new safety warning out tonight. Too many airliners are having close calls, narrowly avoiding crashes before they even leave the ground. This warning comes from federal safety officials. NBC's Robert Hager reports tonight they put the blame for the most part on air traffic controllers who aren't paying attention.
The National Transportation Safety Board warned that the number of dangerous near collisions between planes on runways is increasing, mostly because of errors by air traffic controllers. Last year, close calls on runways were up 35% from the year before. So far this year, close calls are up 19%. Surprisingly, many of the incidents happen in good weather and light traffic. The report says the problem seems to be complacency and inattention by controllers. Example, at Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport last year, 2 Northwest Airlines passenger jets, one cleared to take off, the other cleared to taxi across the runway, barely missed each other. The pilot of the first plane had to jerk its nose up early before he had takeoff speed and barely managed to get airborne. The planes missed by 75 feet. 502 lives were saved. In Washington, D.C. last year, a fully loaded Eastern shuttle had to abort a takeoff because a controller accidentally cleared a helicopter to fly across the runway. The shuttle ran off the end of the runway, but the pilot was able to stop it 40 yards short of the Potomac River. In Palm Beach, Florida, 2 small planes were given permission to take off from intersecting runways at the same time. They missed each other by 10 feet. And in Birmingham, Alabama one night, a controller cleared an Air National Guard plane to land right where a small plane was waiting to take off. The controller workload has increased ever since deregulation brought new airlines to the business. On Capitol Hill today, a report the government's had a lot of safety problems since then. The General Accounting Office's Charles Cotton.
These things have been festering for 6 years, and they're just beginning to try to address them. You know, and if it takes you 6 years to dig a hole, it's going to take you 6 years to climb out of it.
The NTSB says close calls on runways could be averted if controllers were better trained and better supervised. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
NASA today looked beyond its current problems to an ambitious goal for the 1990s, construction of an $8 billion manned space station. It would be a joint venture with Western Europe, Japan, and Canada. Shuttle astronauts have already practiced assembling the station. It will look something like an erector set, as long and wide as a football field, with quarters for 6 crew members, a launching base, and a science lab. NASA said it will take 14 shuttle flights to build that station. By the 9th flight in 1994, it could be permanently manned. And in a major liability decision, a federal appeals court has ruled that the death of 3 Massachusetts lobstermen in a storm cannot be blamed on a wrong forecast by the National Weather Service. A lower court had awarded the men's families $1.25 million, but the appeals court ruled that the Weather Service did not create the weather and threw out that award. Former White House Deputy Chief of Staff Michael Deaver has given up his White House perks. He has returned his White House pass, stopped using the White House tennis courts, and no longer gets copies of the president's personal schedule. Deaver said the move was aimed at averting possible embarrassment to Mr. Reagan, while Deaver is being investigated for his activities as a lobbyist.
You're on your way. The world is opening its door.
I never understood when Mom made me clean my plate because there were places where kids were starving. Now I'm about to walk into a Dow laboratory to work on new ways to help grow more and better grain for those kids who so desperately need it.
Yes, you can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
I can't wait.
'Cause Dow lets you do great things. Making room to fit into your lifestyle. Turn it on, enjoy it every little mile.
Remember the great coupes of the past? Compare them to this, the Sabre Coupe from Buick. Shaped for the open road and backed by V6 performance with fuel injection. Buick's full-size front-wheel drive, the Sabre Coupe. The great American coupe is back.
Wouldn't you really rather have a
Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. Thick, luscious, perfect with everything. Especially 9 innings.
Bring out the Hellmans and bring out the best.
On special segment tonight, POW School, the first of 2 reports on an unusual Army program. Draws on the Vietnam experience to teach soldiers how to avoid and how to survive being prisoners of war. NBC's chief Pentagon correspondent Fred Francis has gotten a rare look inside this POW school.
Keep walking, keep walking.
An American has escaped from a POW camp.
Spread your feet apart. Spread them apart. Keep going. Bend over.
In this Panamanian jungle exercise, Sergeant Jeffrey Mason avoided the enemy for 7 days without food.
Mason Jeffrey, 381-80-1462.
This is the Army's POW school.
Okay, we're Americans. We're Americans. Stand up on your feet.
An 18 to 27-day course, which Vietnam veterans say should have been introduced right after the war, not a decade later. One officer suggested that the Army wanted so badly to forget Vietnam that perhaps that is why it took so long to deal with one of the most painful lessons of that conflict, how to survive as a prisoner. More than 3 million men fought in Southeast Asia. Most who were captured felt ill-equipped to endure captivity.
We knew we'd be wounded. We accepted that as a given.
Lieutenant Colonel Nick Rowe was a prisoner of the Viet Cong for 5 years, one of only 28 servicemen to escape.
He never considered being captured. Never once did being captured enter the picture.
For captured American pilots, a survival handbook wasn't enough. They were herded through Hanoi streets. Some said things which violated the military code of conduct, which stated, give only name, rank, serial number, and date of birth. Survivors said that interpretation was too rigid. It's estimated that 300 Americans died sticking to the code.
I sincerely acknowledge my crime.
Navy pilot Richard Stratton was tortured repeatedly before saying more. Captain Stratton's training didn't prepare him for the POW experience.
We believed that we were James Bond, so we came in with that attitude, and it was reinforced by the school, that any man can withstand a certain measure of brutality, and they die like a man if they have the option. Don't have a backup position because that's a sign of weakness. You'll be tempted to go to it.
Today's servicemen are taught a backup position, told to talk to their captors, give their ID, and if necessary, tell elaborate lies about their skills and mission. Any deception to stay alive. In Vietnam, Colonel Rowe lied about his job as a Green Beret, saying he was an engineer. The Army's new instruction is based on Rowe's 5 years of deceiving the enemy.
They figure out you've been lying to them.
Then if you can't get away, then you might as well tuck up because you're going to die.
The new course puts heavy emphasis on escaping before the enemy learns you are lying.
And stab straight through the neck.
It's the kind of instruction rarely seen by the public.
Now, the only problem with this is it will gurgle and make noise. So what you have to do then is close his head down over that to silence the noise of the blood and the gurgling.
This is what people think all soldiers learn. It is not.
It's a silent takeout.
The training is only for selected soldiers like these who will become instructors and the Army's Rangers and Green Berets.
He's not as happy, perhaps, as what he could be.
The men are taught to survive as prisoners and while they are on the run.
You have got to learn to overcome this little aversion we have to killing something and then eating it.
And while evading the enemy, they must eat anything, even boa constrictors.
Like taking the stockings off a fat girl, eh?
You go out there and what you catch is what you eat. And we've had weight loss between 16 and 24 pounds. The individuals going through the course.
After 3 weeks of classes, the men now have to use their survival skills. For 7 days, they must think like POWs on the run, hide in the jungle, live off the land, avoid ambushes. It's as close to a real test as the Army could devise, and as in real life, a lot of them won't make it. Fred Francis, NBC News, near the Panama Canal.
Tomorrow night's report, we'll find out just how those soldiers did in their grueling test.
Feeling great, I'm standing straight. Nothing's gonna stop me now. I'm walking tall, I've got it all. Nothing's gonna stop me now.
Don't stop now. New CalSup is here with specialized calcium care to help you stand tall, help keep bones from early aging.
Flying high, I'm touching the sky.
The new calcium supplement for today's woman, CalSup.
Nothing's gonna stop me now.
IBM presents a remarkable technological advancement. Peace and quiet. It comes with a line of typewriters so advanced they make no more noise than this. IBM Quiet Writer typewriters. As with any IBM typewriter, there's only one thing to say.
I love it. We're your time.
We've been growing for over a century, from insurance to mutual funds, IRAs, pension plans, and much, much more. Now the banker's life has grown into the Principal Financial Group, a big diversified family of financial services companies. The more things change, the more you can depend on us, the Principal.
More documents were released by the World Jewish Congress today, allegedly linking Kurt Waldheim to Nazi wartime atrocities. These documents, found in the National Archives, appear to support for the first time testimony 40 years ago that prompted Yugoslavia to label Waldheim a war criminal. Among them is a 1944 intelligence report on partisan activities in Yugoslavia, reportedly signed by the former UN Secretary General. 48 hours after this report was made, Nazi troops moved into the area and killed 114 civilians. Waldheim today denied these latest charges. In Zagreb, Yugoslavia today, Andrea Artukovic, once called the Butcher of the Balkans, was sentenced to death by a firing squad for committing mass murders during World War II. The 86-year-old, who suffers from Alzheimer's disease and is legally blind, had lived in Los Angeles 33 years before being deported. His lawyer said today that they would appeal. When the Chernobyl nuclear accident first was disclosed days ago, coverage was hampered by that Soviet silence. Well, Moscow is talking more now. But as NBC's John Chancellor tells us in his commentary tonight, there are many more complaints as well as facts. John?
Tom? In his television talk tonight, as we've reported, Mikhail Gorbachev accused the Western press of orchestrating what he called an unbridled anti-Soviet campaign, using exaggerated reports of deaths at Chernobyl. A couple of points about that. One is that American editors themselves have been looking back on some of the coverage uneasily. Some of the figures were wrong. United Press International, the second biggest wire service in the country, reported that more than 2,000 may have been killed. NBC News and a lot of other news organizations reported that United Press International was using that estimate. The Russians were saying that 2 people had died, but an American official described that figure as preposterously low. To make things more difficult, the Russians have practically no credibility. Remember how they behaved when they shot down the Korean airliner. Remember that the first word on Chernobyl came from other countries. It is hard to believe the Russians. Something else, though, is easy to believe, that a big nuclear accident would kill thousands. That was the first reaction to the 3 Mile Island accident. People thought thousands might die. For years, opponents of nuclear power have been predicting a terrible disaster. A movie was made, you'll recall, called The China Syndrome. The idea that one of these things is going to blow sky high with a ghastly cost in human life has become part of the consciousness of the world. When we heard about Chernobyl, many people thought, oh boy, it finally happened. That's how the public felt. That's how the editors felt. 4 decades of the nuclear age have trained us to expect a catastrophe, which is commentary for this evening, Tom.
Thanks, John. And this note on one aspect of our coverage of the Chernobyl accident. Monday night, you'll remember, we showed a videotape of what we were led to believe was a damaged nuclear reactor 1 day after the accident. Italian television yesterday questioned that tape's authenticity, saying it actually showed a factory in Trieste. Well, we investigated that and found, in fact, it was Trieste. We were had.
In a society obsessed with staying young, consider for a moment something that can help you grow older. A diet low in saturated fats and cholesterol. Fleischmann's margarines are made from 100% pure corn oil. They're low in saturated fats and have no cholesterol. And Fleischmann's taste good. Fleischmann's, a way of life.
8 long years of development have created the Mercedes-Benz 300e. It moves from 0 to 55 in a stunning 7.5 seconds. It moves performance sedan engineering into a new dimension. And it returns to 0 with computerized ABS anti-lock brakes. 'The 300e sedan.
300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan. 300e sedan.
Today's taking a cruise along the east coast of the United States.
We'll explore the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, meet modern-day pirates, and dive for treasure.
Sail with Jane, Willard, and me, May 19th.
We know Dunkin' Donuts are always fresh and come in more varieties than supermarkets.
Excuse me.
But we like to make sure.
Do you have delicious chocolate frosted donuts like Dunkin' Donuts?
No.
Do you have 5 kinds of jelly donuts?
No. Ma'am.
Were these made fresh this morning?
No. Good. Dunkin' Donuts. Up to 52 varieties made fresh day and night. No supermarket can say that.
Women have always had a special place in Nebraska. They help settle the prairie, break the sod, raise the crops, build the towns, teach the kids. Now their special place is about to be secured by the highest office in that state. For the first time ever, anywhere, the 2 major party candidates for governor are women. And NBC's Ann Rubenstein is in Lincoln tonight.
You wouldn't think it could happen here. Conservative, quiet Nebraska, perhaps best known for its farms and alfalfa, is the first in the country to choose 2 women for the governor's race. History was made, but it was just another day in the country.
It's no big deal to me.
It's not that they don't care here, but women have always been a force in Nebraska.
Well, I think it could happen any place. I think it just depends on who's running.
Helen Busalis, the Democrats' candidate, is a seasoned politician. She was mayor of Lincoln for 8 years and served in Governor Bob Kerry's cabinet.
Oh, I won the primary because I guess the voters believed that I was the most qualified candidate on the Democratic ticket.
I won the primary because
I worked hard.
Kay Orr is the Republican candidate. She is Nebraska's treasurer, has strong ties to the Reagans, and is known as a tireless, tough campaigner. She believes the major issues are the state's economic and farm problems. Busalis seems to agree. This isn't the first time Nebraskans have elected women to powerful political positions. The state has had a congresswoman in Washington for several terms and has also sent women to the U.S. Senate. Richard Chagru, a political analyst, says no, the state has not turned over a new leaf of liberalism, but voters were looking for the best choice.
Gender doesn't matter in this state. In the general election of 1986, and I'm saying it in this state and in a lot of Midwestern states, it's never going to matter again.
Unless you asked Bob at the Straight Edge Barber Shop.
I feel the man in that part of the office could handle it better.
Farmers say women in office are okay, to a point.
If it was president, it may be another story.
How so?
Well, I don't know. I may have something there about a woman trying to run the country, deep inside.
But not the state of Nebraska?
Not the state of Nebraska, no.
Not in the Cornhusker state, where strong pioneer women settled this land, and where after November, one strong woman will be running it. Ann Rubenstein, NBC News, Lincoln, Nebraska.
That's Nightly News for this Wednesday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Tonight on Highway to Heaven, a 2-hour movie. 2 young outcasts fall in love. But can Jonathan stop a murderous mistake?
For God's sake, don't run!
Then it's Black's Magic at a special time. They're searching for treasure, but could Pop be a murder suspect?
I'm a talker, not a stabber.
Aye, aye, sir.
Tonight.
Coming up on tonight's Scene at 6, a Clarksville-based commuter airline denies involvement in drug trafficking. And the final day of the legislative session draws to a close after 2 prominent bills are killed.
Also tonight, the Army Corps of Engineers turns its attention to next year's water problems and will examine what publicity has done to the private life of Robert Allen.
These stories and more news coming up next on The Scene at 6.